content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. John Mintz does not provide tax or legal advice. All decisions regarding the tax or legal implications of your investments should be made in connection with your independent tax or legal advisor.
Have you ever wondered why the rich get richer and others don't? Could it be that a small percentage of the population seek out others to find, study, and execute on legal loopholes that exist within our financial life and make it easier for them to prosper? The answer is a resounding yes. This is the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. John has spent a lifetime researching and mastering the financial loopholes that he believes should be available to everyone. Join us as we explore different strategies that help you get farther faster towards building and enjoying a prosperous retirement.
Hello and welcome to the Secrets of the Wealthy with John Mintz. John, how are you?
Hey, Eric. It's a great day. Looking forward to this next episode. We've been talking about it for, several weeks now, and sorry for the delay, but today's the good stuff. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get into it. I know that we had a quick break there during the holidays, but now you're really diving into the good stuff, the good information that you set this entire series up for. So a Roth on steroids, right? That was part of the title as far as what you're going to be covering.
It is, and I'm going to prove that today. In fact, we're going to talk about, and it's an age-old secret that more folks need to know about. And inevitably, when I introduce this to professionals, doctors, dentists, chiropractors, they always seem so surprised that they didn't know about it, prior to meeting me. But that's what we're going to chat about today. Some people call it a super Roth. I call it a Roth on steroids. And what does a Roth do? So we store funds, save funds after tax, right? Same here. We grow them tax-free. We distribute them tax-free, but the caveat is that with the Roth comes sometimes a lot of handcuffs, things that you can't do or you get in trouble if you do, right? So what if we could do all those other things, all of the above and more, but no handcuffs? And so I want to talk about, we're going to get into that today, what I mean by the handcuffs. We'll get into that. But how does it work? So first of all, I want to do a couple of disclaimers here. We really need about 10 years or more for this structure to be the most efficient. So if you're looking for a place to save for a few years and then you got to use it for a down payment for a house or something, that's probably not the best structure. The best candidates, I find, usually are someone that's over-contributing to a 401k plan or want to contribute to a Roth but make too much to qualify, or those who are later in life and maybe have an excessive amount of taxable assets that need to be converted to tax-free assets. Those are all really good candidates. But this is really important. What I want to say next is really, really important. Do not buy one of these structures over the phone or from a 1-800 number. Okay? And
John,
people do.
Well, here's the thing is that you and I have spoken about this a bit before. You off air, you've told me more about it, and we've had private conversations. So I know I'm a little bit ahead of the audience at this point, but it's so funny because there was just somebody on TikTok, who was saying, hey, you can do blah, 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 blah. And I mean, it was similar to what you're talking about today, but you need to talk to an insurance professional. And if you don't have one, you can contact me. I'm like, I'm not getting my guy off of TikTok. So same thing. I'm not making that blind phone call or whatever. So it's so funny that you just brought that up because I just saw that a couple days ago. And I'm like, no, I'll talk to John. Thank you very much.
I don't even know how to get into TikToks over the
right.
I don't think a lot of people do, but this is a complicated structure that must be set up correctly to perform correctly over time. I can't overemphasize that. So now, the disclaimer set aside, right? So let's talk about the differences between a Roth and the Roth on steroids, also known as cash value life insurance. Okay. So the Roth, we put money in after tax. We'll call it cash value life for short. We'll call it CVL just to save time here. Okay. CVL, also put money in after tax. The Roth grows tax-free. CVL also grows tax-free. The Roth, we can distribute or take money out, if done correctly, tax-free. The CVL, also, we can take money out tax-free. At death, the Roth can transfer tax-free to the beneficiaries, as well as the CVL. Well, John, they look to be the same, but they're not. Okay, let's talk about some of the differences. So, for starters, contributions is a big difference. So, in a Roth, I can contribute up to $6,000 a year if I don't make too much money, of course. Up until age 50, over 50, I can contribute $7,000 a year. So, if somebody makes a lot of money, they can't do that. And even if they could, that may not be, they may want to save more than that. So with the CVL, there are no limitations other than what they can qualify for. Okay? So big difference there. That $6,000 to $7,000 a year that you can put into Roth, it has to be from some sort of compensation. It can't be from investments or savings you have to at least earn as much as you did. You can put it from savings, but you still have to have earned whatever amount you are putting into the Roth. For the CVL, that does not apply. The Secure Act, which came about in 2019, that says the Roth has to be pulled out in 10 years or less upon the death of the individual passing that Roth on. Not the case with the CVL again. Access to the funds. Well, any access to a Roth prior to age 59 and a half could be hit with an early withdrawal penalty on the growth of that asset. With the cash value life insurance, again, that is not the case. In fact, you can actually take loans against the value of your account in the cash value life insurance and not even hinder the performance of the asset. So what do you mean by that, John? Well, so on a Roth, if I have $100,000 and I take out $20,000, for example, now I'm only
as a loan.
Yeah, as a loan or as a withdrawal. Let's just say more so it would be a withdrawal from a Roth. I'm talking. Then I'm only going to be earning interest on the 80 that's left, right? Or in my growth of that account, the growth of the asset's only going to come on the 80,000 left in there. Well, on the Roth on steroids, we're saying, okay, if I have $100,000, I take out a $20,000 loan. Well, that loan, they only use that $20,000. They collateralize that $20,000. The loan, the $20,000 doesn't actually come out of my account. So they're going to continue to let me earn interest or gains on the asset, on the entire $100,000, assuming that loan's going to be paid back at some point.
Got it. Okay.
So it's going to grow faster, especially in the distribution phase. Now, I'll prove that later with some examples, some mathematical examples that I'm going to show you. So in essence, you can think of that, if I'm going to use this, by taking money out at any point in time, then the cash value life insurance has a chance to grow much larger than the Roth would grow.
Let me ask you a question. Before we move on, you said something that piqued my interest a little bit ago. When you were saying that you can, obviously the Roth is limited on how much you can put in, and it has to come from, like, you've got to, earn as much as you put in, I think is one of the things you said. And you said something to the effect of it couldn't be from savings. It couldn't be from something. So with the cash value life insurance, so let's say somebody has a second home, a vacation home that they sell and they make $50,000 on that sale. Yeah. All of that can go right into the cash value life insurance, the Roth on steroids?
Yeah, so I do a lot of retiree workshops, and retirees are very frustrated because they're retired, and they say, I have a lot of money and I want to put it in a Roth, but they can't. Even though they don't make too much money because they don't work, because they don't have any income. So since they don't have earned income, they can't contribute to a Roth. But if they had $200,000 sitting in a savings account doing nothing, right, and couldn't put it in a Roth, they could put it here in the cash value life insurance because that is not a handcuff for the cash value life insurance. It can come from any source. I should say any legal source. So,
good to say that right there.
So, was that your question? Is that?
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then coming back to what you said a moment ago, when it comes to taking a loan off of your CVL, it's not counted against, it's not counted against the amount that you have in there. So you used $100,000 as an example, and you take $20,000 out. So when you have to pay that loan back, are you paying interest to the company because they've loaned it and collateralized it?
Yeah, and this is where there's a lot of folks are misled by individuals that do not really understand these structures. And because there's some terms out there, bank on yourself and banking, infinite banking, those types of things. And there's nothing wrong with those terms, but unfortunately people don't do their homework. They don't understand. So they think when they borrow that money, they're borrowing it from themselves or from, which is not true. Because if you're borrowing from themselves, the money would come out of your account and then you don't earn on that portion because it's not there to earn. And so because they think they're borrowing from themselves, they also think they don't pay in. So neither of those are true. So what happens is all life insurance companies have general reserve funds, whereas a large bank of money, so to speak, for claims and all other types for claims and loans and all types of things. So when you borrow that $20,000, you're actually borrowing it from the life insurance company. And I see interest rates ranging from 1.5 up to about the highest you see right now is about. So really, really attractive interest rates. So those interest rates get paid back you're only charged for the time you use the money. And that gets paid back to the loan, to the insurance company, but you're offsetting that interest on the loan by the rate of return you're getting,
the growth of the
same money, right?
Got it. Okay, yeah.
So that's the first point. The second point is, well, John, what if I take out money and I can't pay it back, or I don't want to pay it back, or am I able to set those terms? And the answer is yes. That's where the becoming your own banker comes in. You get to decide the terms. They're not going to make you pay it back. You don't ever have to pay 1 cent back. So what happens is, and again, not available in the Roth, when you die, if the payout is $1 million on your death benefit, typically, and you have $200,000 outstanding in loans and interest on the loans, they'll just deduct that from the death benefit. And the balance of that, $800,000, would go to your beneficiaries, again, avoiding taxation.
Man, that's great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So there's the term becoming your own banker, or, the way I try to describe it to people so they don't get misled is that you're creating your own source of capital, and which is really attractive to business owners and professionals, right? So anyway, we got sidetracked, but that was a great discussion. I'm glad you brought that up. So where was I? Let's see. Oh, access. So 59.5 for the Roth, you have to be 59.5 without incurring some sort of penalties on the growth. We don't have that problem because of the loan situation we just discussed with cash value life insurance. Big one, generational transfer. Okay. So if I wanted to pass a Roth down, let's just say I wanted to get some tax-free money to my grandchildren and I'm still alive. I have people bring this up a lot. I have more money than I'll ever spend and I want to start giving some to my kids. Can I start a Roth for them? And I said, I don't know. Do they work? Well, John, they're 3.
So not so much work.
Are they able to work for you?
That's right.
I don't know. But again, because here's that handcuff, right? They have to have earned income to be able to do it. Doesn't matter what age they are. That is not the case with the Roth on steroids, because if you want to open one of these up for your grandchild, you can be the owner even. And as that grandchild grows up, you can pass it over to him, or if you don't want to pass it over to him for one reason or another, you don't have to do that too. You control the asset until you don't want to. So it's a really nice way to build wealth through several generations tax-free.
Wow.
Yeah, it's super, super cool.
Yeah, I mean, so if you were to create a CVL for other folks, how would you do that? I mean, if my grandson's 7, for instance, let's just take him as an example. If I wanted to do that in anticipation of him, maybe passing it to him when he's 25 or 30, so he can use it for whatever his purposes would be, a house, maybe he's got a family at that point, maybe he's got kids. Is that something that I am the beneficiary on until I pass it over to him? And then how does that work?
Well, you can't. Yeah, so that is correct. You're the owner. In the case you just described, Eric, you would be the owner and the beneficiary. Mm-hmm. He would only be the insured person. So he has no rights to the contract. He's just the insured person. And so, if you were married and you took one out on your wife, and then the two of you got divorced, and she didn't see the value in it, and you did, and you took ownership of that, and she's still the insured person, that still would be work too. So they're just the insured person. The owner has full rights, and the beneficiary obviously would be the recipient of the asset upon death. So that beneficiary can be changed at any point in time only by the owner. The owner can be changed at the discretion of the owner, of course, assuming that there is an interest in the individual, the new owner. So, but yeah, these things can be adjusted and moved. So to answer your question more directly, I took them out for my children early, a small amount, and then, monthly amount. And then when they got out of college, I said, okay, here is how much is in this account now. Would you like to take it? And they all get the choice. And so at that point in time, if they take it over, they have to continue the contributions on their own.
Got it.
But they get the tax-free asset for life. So we just had one agreement that was that they would continue contributing for life and that they would never close the account. That was the agreement we have. And so what I like about the whole thing is it teaches your children how to become good stewards of money before they get too much money.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's what I love about it. And it also helps them. You don't want to pass. I see so many times people pass a whole bunch of money to the next generation and it lasts 6 months.
Exactly.
Because they've never been taught how to handle money. So it's a good way to see how they handle a little bit of money before they handle a lot of money, right? So, okay. So another way to explain what you were just saying, Eric, is to talk about an actual example.
Okay.
So I could do 100 different examples, but I just pulled out a 37-year-old female. And I chose this one because I had a dad wanting to contribute to his kids. He has more money than he's going to spend. He's in his 60s. He says, I want to contribute to my kids, but I want to do it in a way that's going to last. And so we put these together for him, and here's an example of what we did. So his daughter's 37 years old, and he was going to put $30,000 a year. So remember, this is already proven. It's not like a Roth, right? Because you couldn't do this in a Roth.
Correct. Yeah.
So he's going to put $30,000 a year, and he said, John, I want to do that for 10 years, and then I want to be done. So he would put $300,000 total over a 10-year period. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then stop. So she'd be 47, right? And then he's not going to put in any more money, but we're going to continue to let that percolate and grow.
Yeah.
At age 66, based on the projections of the illustration I ran, and we project out based on historical returns and what we expect it to grow, but based on the ones I'm running as of today, her annual tax-free income at age 66 would be $181,000
a year. Annual income?
Annual.
Oh, good Lord.
Per year. And that will run until death. Okay. However, just for argument's sake, I just ran it to age 87. All right. Now, why is that number so big? It's because, remember the compounding effect. So even though when she starts to take that 180 out, it's not going to be reducing the balance that they're calculating her interest off of. So her interest is going to be growing exponentially each year, even after she starts to take money out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the secret sauce, okay? And so by age 87, 20 years later, she would have taken out just about $20,000 short of $4 million. That's what she would have taken out. I want to throw this part in, tax-free.
Jeez. Wow.
And on top of that, if she died that year, she would pass on another $689,000 additional tax-free, or a total of roughly $4.7 million. And he put in $300,000. Okay?
That's incredible.
Now, let's compare that to a Roth.
Is there a comparison to a Roth?
Well,
John, really?
I'm a fan, and I'm a fan of Roth because I've been talking about Roth conversions.
True. Yes.
But because you can't do, what we did with the IRA or 401k to a Roth via Roth conversions. If you haven't heard it, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you go back and listen to previous episodes, we talk a lot about this strategy of Roth conversions. Well, we can't do what we do with Roth conversions. We can't do into this vehicle.
Yeah. So you can't do a CVL conversion.
You cannot do an IRA to CVL conversion. No, you cannot.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so that's why this is so, it's so important to have more than one tool in your tool belt and more than one strategy in your portfolio, and because you never know when they're going to change, right? So, but in comparing in this scenario, if we put the same $30,000 a year into a Roth for 10 years at a rate of return of 6%, net of fees, right? 6%, then we'd have, roughly $395,423. Let's call it $400,000. Well, how is that not more than that, John? Because we're compounding for 10 years. Yeah, but it's only $30,000 in year one, right?
Yeah.
And then 60 in year two. So roughly $400,000. So at age 47, that's 10 years later, and if we let that keep growing just like we did on the other side through age 65, we'd have $1,128,000, still growing at 6%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now comes the distribution part.
Exactly.
So if we take out 100, think about that. You can do the math. If we take out 180,000 a year off of 1.1 million at a 6% return, we run out in a little over 8 years.
Yeah, you're done.
Now I ran the last one to 87, but if she lived past 87, that keeps going. And another way to say it is if we wanted that Roth to last the same amount of time, 21 years, even though the other will go longer. Let's just say one last 21 years. We could only take out $96,000 per year, about half.
Yeah,
a little more than half. So there's just, like you said, there's just no comparison. And I know you're not, for the listening audience, you can't see these numbers that I'm quoting here, but just know that we can exponentially, as far as tax-free assets down the road. And I say that again, we need at least 10 years to make this really do its magic. There's just no comparison to a Roth or anything else. Thus the term Roth on steroids.
Okay, I've got a question for you because, I'm going to put you on the spot on this one. And you may not be able to answer this right off the bat because, everybody's case is different. But let's just say a 40-year-old. A 40-year-old who's been contributing to a Roth since they were 20 years old. They were smart at 20, said, you know what, I'm going to start contributing. And I don't know how much. Let's just say they've got $1 million in a Roth at age 40 after 20 years, which would be amazing. But is it mathematically smart? Is it a wise idea to, at that point at 40, say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take all this money out of the Roth and do this plan in a lump sum, knowing that there's a 10% penalty because you're not 59 and a half. So you're losing $100,000 right off the bat, off $1 million for that 10% penalty. Mm-hmm. And you take $900,000 and put it into a vehicle like this. Is that wise with the growth that could happen from 40 to 65 in this vehicle compared to 40 to 65?
Well, the answer is, as always, it depends on a lot of factors.
Maybe.
So let me give you an example.
Yeah, please.
Let's just say the 40-year-old has no other life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And he has 4 kids and his wife doesn't work. The answer would be yes.
Yes,
a resounding
absolutely. Yes.
Let's do this. If for no other reason, I want your wife and kids to be protected from your early exit.
Yes.
So with that comes an intrinsic benefit, a significant potential benefit over and above
Yeah.
just the pure numbers. That's one way of saying it. The next way of saying it is, can you still contribute from your income to a Roth, and we can reallocate existing assets from the Roth? So, the answer may be yes. So sometimes you don't have to stop one to start another. Or is there any other assets that we could reallocate first that would maybe make more sense? So the answer to your question is that a possibility that somebody could do that and benefit? Without a doubt, yes.
Got it.
But you really have to analyze the whole scenario of that individual before you might do that.
Mm-hmm. Again, it makes sense. Everything's individualized, and it's a big solid maybe. So,
yeah.
And people are going to need to ask you their own questions, their own scenarios, their own situation. So what's the best way to reach out to you to begin this conversation?
Yeah. Well, the best way to reach out to us at any time is our main office line. Our main number is 817-225-6260.
All right. And I didn't want to derail this. Is there anything else you want to include in today's podcast before we wrap up?
No, I guess what I would say is that, there's different situations, different professions that this strategy might work well for. Physicians, it's a no-brainer because usually they're exceeding the income limit and they can't contribute to a Roth. Business owners, because they typically don't have a built-in retirement plan. And they forget to plan. And high-income, high-net worth individuals like to do it for legacy reasons. And then sometimes we do it as an IRA rescue. And in individuals who have large amounts of retirement savings stored up, and they either can't do Roth conversions or they don't want to do Roth conversions, it's an IRA rescue. So there's a number of different great reasons. We talked about overfunding a 401k. So I guess if you do not have this as part of your portfolio in any way, shape, or form, you're a good candidate.
Yeah.
Unless you just can't qualify, because it should be the anchor, I think, of most portfolios. So hope that helps.
Absolutely, it does. Again, can you give the phone number one more time?
Absolutely. 817-225-6260.
John, thank you so much for your time today. Great information, a lot to think about. So again, thank you for the info. And our last thank you goes to you, listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when John comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it really easy to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at the Secrets of the Wealthy, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of John Mintz. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.